hopefully like finances is only one way that our children are going to measure success. Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I just realized for those of you watching on YouTube that I've got a messy desk. So I'm putting things away. Also, let me just say this. I know my nails are short. Okay. I'm trying something here. I'm going to try something. I'm trying to just like lessen my toxic load. I've switched over to crunchy makeup, especially like I never not wear their foundation because it's so good for your skin. It's like moisturizing. It's, on camera supposed to look airbrushed, which I believe that it does. If you think otherwise here on YouTube, don't tell me. Let me live in denial. I'm hoping that I look, 43 instead of 53. Don't respond to that. But anyhow, I love Crunchy's non-toxic makeup, and I have a code for that. If you've never ordered it, send me a DM on Instagram. I can give that to you. You can try. But also, like, I know I've been doing my nails for, a solid decade. So I'm trying to take them off. I'm trying something different. I also took off my lashes this week. I don't think I'm going to leave them off, but they're off temporarily just because my lash lady says, could you just give them a break? So right now I feel, my eyes feel naked and my hands feel bare. And I will continue to dye my hair. So just know that I draw the line there. I draw the line at toxins on my head. I will continue to dye my hair. But if you're watching me on YouTube and you're like, she looks different. I know. I know. My husband looked at my nails. He goes, just put them back on. You know, you hate them. I'm like, I do. I hate this. I hate they're so short. Anywho, that's not what I'm talking about today. But I am excited about our conversation today because the topic came from one of you, my loyal listeners who are my favorite. And it was a follow-up to a different episode. Okay. So I said we like I'm French. I did episode number 476, which is about, it was just a couple weeks ago, how to make sure that you're raising your children, um, like Jason and I, so that they're not entitled, so that they feel like empowered, but not entitled. Like, how do we make sure if you have a successful business and how do you just make sure that your kids aren't really, getting super spoiled? And so I talk on episode 476. You can literally, if you want to, you can stop now, you can hit pause, you can type in Jennifer Allwood podcast, episode 476, and go listen to that. It's called something like entitlement or empowerment. And so I talked about some of the things that Jason and I are doing, et cetera. So and by the way, I think that there's a huge difference between spoiling your children and raising entitled kids versus setting the bar high so that they have like a baseline, like this is what I want for my life in the future, right? So after posting about that podcast episode on social media, one of you sweet women DM'd me and you asked me the sweetest question. You're like, Jennifer, I'm going to read it so that I don't get it wrong. Do you ever worry that your children are going to feel bad if they don't make it to the same level of success that you have? Okay. Do you ever worry that your children are going to feel bad if they don't make it to the same level of success that you have? And I was like, oh, this is really, really good. This is a really good question. Because I assume she's meaning like the level of business success. I assume she's meaning the level of financial success, which by the way, is such a weird term and looks different to everybody. Perhaps she's talking about the fact that Jason and I have bougie on the beach. We have bougie on the desert. We have bougie on the beach too at some point. So we have a couple of Airbnbs. And so, I think her question is, if your children don't have that same level of like financial success, business success, professional success, do you worry that they're going to feel bad? And I read that and I'm like, well, okay, gosh, I sure hope not. I sure hope not. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, this is a really good episode because it's actually, I think, a much bigger question. And I have, I think, a decent answer. But I just want to say, first of all, that like when Jason and I got married, he was 25 and I was 26. We didn't have any money. We had a lot of debt. And then we got to where we had some money. And then in 2008, 2009, when the kids were born in 2001, 2003, so they were not that old. So 2008, 2009, they would have been what, 7 and 5. The boys were 7 and 5. So Ava would have been only 1. We almost lost everything. Jason was in the real estate market, and my painting company here in Kansas City, the Magic Brush, did mostly, painting jobs for creative homes, houses, new constructions, lots of builders in the Kansas City area that were some of the very top builders. Well, in case you weren't around then or don't remember that time, 2008, 2009, things got a little wonky. Things got a little terrible in there was a whole real estate market crash, which meant that a lot of my builders were going under. Several of them got divorced. One went to jail. So all of a sudden, my painting company, which had been doing really well, was not really doing very well because it was very dependent upon the real estate market. So Jason sells houses. He had just gone into that. My business is dependent upon the real estate market. Like we almost lost everything. That was when I fell in love with Dave Ramsey because I called him on his like 1-800 number and they put me through to Dave Ramsey. Some of you, if you've been my clients, you've heard this story. He got on the phone. I'm like, do we declare bankruptcy? Do we wipe out our, 401k? And he was so fatherly, like so just, Jen, it's going to be okay. You guys are going to be good. He was like, I can tell you're an entrepreneur. You're going to come out of this. Don't cash anything in. And now, when I look at our 401k balances, I'm like, thank you, Jesus, that we heeded that advice. Right. So I can remember that really well. Now our boys probably don't remember because we did the very best that we could they didn't know what a credit card was. They didn't know that mom's holding her breath when I'm swiping my card at Sunfresh, praying that we haven't gone over our limit, which by the way was $30,000. And that's what we had on that credit card at one time. And I share that with you guys just because some of you are in a similar situation right now. And I want you to know things can swing quickly. God can change your circumstance in just an absolute nanosecond. You may be just barely scraping by right now. You have no idea what tomorrow and next week and next month and next year looks like. Because we were on the struggle bus. So, again, the kids were 7, 5, and 1. So the boys maybe, might have a tiny bit of recollection, but I doubt it. But we have talked about it. We've talked about how dad and I didn't have any money and then we have built it back. Okay. But what I really want to talk about today is a couple of things. Like when it comes to having financial resources, having money in the bank, I hope that we have talked to our children about the fact that that's not always a result of hard work. Okay. If you were raised in about the 70s, like I was, so, I'm 53. If you were kind of raised in my generation, you were probably raised with parents that really wanted to instill in you the value of hard work, which I think is a biblical concept. And I think it is good and it is holy, right? However, in America, I think we've often gotten wrong what hard work is, because for a long time, we have equated hard work with long work, meaning to work hard means 60 hours a week. To work hard means to give all my focus to business at while I'm losing my family or my peace or my health or whatever in the process. And so, first of all, let's just talk about the fact that having, financial success is not always the result of hard work. Sometimes it is. But if it was always the result of hard work, like every line worker in America would be rich, right? That's hard work. If all it took was hard work to get money in the bank, then every janitor in America would be a bag full of money because that's hard work. So money isn't always, the result of hard work. It's the result of smart work sometimes. Sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time. Often it's just the result of God's favor. Sometimes it's using the talents, which is a biblical concept that God has given us. And so we're duplicating our talents essentially. And sometimes it's like biblical things. Like the Bible literally talks about how often God will reward publicly. And it could be in the form. One way he could do that is in financial success for things that are done privately. And there's also the whole conversation of tithing, regardless of your thoughts on that, but are we reaping what we sow? There's also the conversation of stewarding, because the Bible says that when God sees that you are able to steward a little, then he can trust you with much. Okay. The Bible also talks about how often things like land, which right now I think in America is one of the, you can't look at the portfolio, if you will, or the, all the financial things of people who are really wealthy in our country and there not be just real estate in there. So whether that's in the form of land or houses or whatever. And so, but in the Bible, land was often like a gift from God. And also an inheritance in a lot of cases. And so I just want you to know that money is not just the result of hard work. There can be luck, which I'm going to say is God's favor. There can be being in the right place at the right time. You can literally get inheritances from your family and stuff. So I want to just say that, first of all. The second thing I want to say is that having money in the bank, having financial success should not be the only measure of success. And this is what I want to say, like in answer to the woman that sent me the DM. And I did send this to her privately. I responded to her that, like, my hope for our children, because again, her question was, are you worried that if your children don't see the same level of success that you and your husband have, that they are going to feel badly? And what I said back to her is, I hope that we have taught our children that money in the bank is not the only way to measure success. There are several ways that I think that we should all be measuring success. I'm going to try to find a podcast episode for you here. Hang on just a second. I realized the other day I was playing back something. Let's see, Jennifer Allwood podcast. What was it called? It was like 5 areas of goals with Jason. I did it in January. Oh, there we go. Okay. I want you to go write this down. So you're listening to this episode. Hopefully you listened to the one before it that was 476. But when you get a chance, I want you to listen to podcast episode 322. So podcast episode 322 is about Jason and I sitting down in January every year and setting goals for ourselves, our family in 5 different areas. It's finances, faith, friendships, fitness, and family. And so go listen to that podcast episode. It's number 322. Okay. You can just Google Jennifer Allwood podcast 322 and you can listen to that. Because when it comes to like measuring what success is, I think we need to look at all those things. So when I DM that lady back, here's what I said. Hopefully, like, finances is only one way that our children are going to measure success, because there's so many other ways that, like, now, as a 53-year-old woman, that I look at success, because like one area, for instance, is your health. Are you successful in the area of health? And I remember often, I used to work with a guy named Mike Murphy to do my Facebook ads years ago. And Mike had a saying. Mike probably doesn't know it. I should tell Mike, somebody remind me to let Mike know to listen to this podcast episode. But he told me once, he said, Jennifer, you never want to be the wealthiest woman in the graveyard. And I'm like, whoa. Because basically he was saying, like, you know, um, sometimes financial success comes at a price. Don't let the price be your health. And as someone whose nervous system has been out of whack, you can go listen to the podcast Jason and I did earlier this summer about my nervous system and just stress of entrepreneurship. If you need me to tell you where that episode is, I sure can. But, I think that we fail to recognize, like, if you have your health, you have a whole lot. And so that should be also a way that my children will hopefully measure success. Hopefully they measure success also in the terms of, like, their soul and their soul health. How are they doing spiritually? Are they doing the things to keep themselves healthy and growing in the Lord, or have they backslid? Because we never say stagnant, by the way. Somebody probably needs to hear that today, including myself. We never say stagnant. We don't serve a God of non-motion. We serve a living, moving Lord. Okay. And so you are either always growing in your faith or backsliding in your faith. You are always growing, in terms of your relationship with the Lord, or backsliding slightly. And Lord knows I've done plenty. I'm probably right now in a place where I really need to probably have my face in my Bible even more every day, and have worship music on more every day, and be, just full transparency. So, like, how are you doing spiritually? Because I think that should be a measure of success as well. The Bible even talks about, what good is it for a man to have all the money but have lost his soul? So that should be a measure of success. A measure of success, I think, is also, like, are you successful in relationships? Do you have people? Do you have friends? Do you have family that you can call upon? Do you have people who are closer to you than a brother? Do you have people who love you and that you're in deep relationship with? And I'm not talking about surfacey stuff. It's interesting. I'm thinking about doing a podcast episode on being an introvert. I'm going to write this down because I really need to just go ahead and it's been a long time since I've done an introvert podcast. Because I did a post on Facebook last night just about how we're kind of wired differently as introverts. Often we have fewer relationships, but I think the ones sometimes that introverts have are deeper. And because we get close to fewer people and we're a little choosier, sometimes our more extroverted friends have, what appears to be 30 best friends, but none of them have a ton of depth. And not that either is right or wrong, but the bottom line is like, do you have success in your relationships? Do you have success at home? I mean, that's the most important relationship, right? Women, that's our first ministry. It's not our business, and so like having favor in your household with your spouse and with your children, like it is hugely important to me. Um, I used to have this saying that I kept in my day planner all the time, which was, and I actually put it in my book, Fears Not the Boss of You, that I want to be famous in my home. Like I could care less how many followers I have online. I want my kids to want to follow me. Does that make sense? What sort of influence are you having with the people that call you mom? What sort of influence are you having with your family? Do you have favor in your household? Because if you're winning at work, but you're losing at home, you're losing. Can I just say that? Like the focus has to change. And then, of course, a measure of success is also the finances. But go listen to that podcast because I don't want our children to only use money in the bank as the barometer for their success. I want them to also measure like their personal peace. Listen, I was talking to my dad last night, and my dad retired young. He retired at age 55, and I've always loved that. I didn't get to spend much time with my father. He worked a lot. And that was kind of, back in the 70s and 80s when you worked a lot. But I'm so happy for him that he was able to leave it all behind at age 55. And dad's now 75. So he's been retired 20 years. And like he told me there's no amount of money that would be worth it to him to have to be grinding and hustling. You know what I'm saying? So like that inner peace, that just like knowing that you have the freedom to do whatever you want to do during the day, like that should be a barometer of success too. What about impact? What about influence? I think that we fail to measure, but that's so much more important sometimes even finances. But the Bible also does says to use worldly wealth to have influence. That's a scripture in the Bible. Go look it up. So when I think about one of my spiritual mentors, a woman who's like a spiritual mother to me, even though she's not quite old enough to be my spiritual mother, but I think about her and I think she may not be wealthy in the bank, but that woman's known in heaven. And I bet if you asked people who she has been a part of their world, um her name's Jill. I bet the number of people who have said she has had an impact on my life, um, that she may not even see until heaven, like a huge ripple effect. Just did a podcast on that topic too. And so, I think that having like that impact is so important also. That's a barometer of success. And so, when I was thinking back to her question, I think almost the bigger question that we need to be addressing as business owners and with our children is like, what does success look like to you? Because the truth is you could have, oh goodness, that is I'm so sorry about that. What is that? Oh, I know what I have an alarm set for. I think so often we forget that, like, for me, success is three-sided. Okay. So I want time freedom. Like, in order for me to feel successful, I need to have time where I am able to do what I want to do. I need to have a calendar that is not jam-packed. I don't work on Fridays. I don't take meetings on Mondays. I work on Mondays. I just don't do any meetings. So like that for me feels successful, that, I'm doing multi-million dollars a year in coaching, but I'm probably at this desk 20 hours a week. And I mean, that feels like success to me. Also, like there's no good in having a bank full of money and no time to spend it. Like that's no fun. If you have a bank full, but you're working 60, 70 hours a week, like where is the success there? To me, that just it doesn't work that way. Could I probably make a lot more than what I actually am if I was willing to do that? Yes, but I'm unwilling to. I think, for me also, I want to have financial success. I want to have financial freedom. That's also part of what success looks like to me. It's time freedom, finance freedom. And then I'll tell you the third, because if you have tons of time on your hands, but you have no money in the bank to go do anything, well, that's no fun either. I've had friends that had weeks off from work, but they're like, we can't afford to go do anything. Well, that to me is not freedom. That to me is bondage. And so success to me looks like having the time to do what I want and the money to do what I want. And then location freedom, which is Pedro Adeo is the one that I got that term from, is to be able to do it from anywhere in the world that I want. And that only comes from selling online. Let that just be a push for those of you who continue, having a brick and mortar and no online sales. You've got to somehow sell online. Let that be a push for you that have a service-based industry like I used to in Kansas City. And you really, you want to pivot over to sell something online, whether it's a course or a membership or, you want a blog or whatever. Like, you only get location freedom when you are a contractor for a company or you are the company. You have built the thing that you're able to, and you've built it online. So you're able to do it from anywhere in the world. Like, that to me is success, the time freedom, the financial freedom, and the location freedom. And so I just, to the woman, and by the way, if you don't have any idea where to start, even to get in the online space, let me just tell you that until Friday of this week, I think this podcast is coming out on Wednesday, but so Friday, October the 11th, I have got a brand new coaching opportunity. I want you to listen to the end of this podcast, or maybe my team's going to slip it in the middle, but it's a 3-month coaching opportunity with me that is not another group. It's not another course. It's a very low price point, and it's a very like one-on-one type of coaching style. So listen to the end of this podcast. Okay. But I just want to go back and tell the woman that sent me that, DM. Thank you for that question, because it got me thinking. And I think it's also just really such a good reminder that we need to be talking to our kids about what success looks like. And it's not just what they have in the bank. For a long time, success for Jason and I was that I was able to stay home pretty much full time in the beginning with all of our kids. Eventually, I went back to work, with my painting company for 6 hours a week, and I put the boys in a mom's day out. And then it was 12 hours a week. And I pretty much kept them at a mom's day out or preschool for 12 hours a week until all 3 of those kids were in school. Ari came along years and years later, but by the time Ari came around, then Jason was home from corporate America, and he was with her, or I was with her all day, every day until she was in preschool. So like that was success to us at that time. I think success, like what the definition of success is, also changes dramatically in different stages of your life and with different ages. So whoever sent that in, I just want you to know that I appreciate it. And that was a good reminder to me, talk to my children, and to remind myself frequently of what success is to us. And by the way, success to me may be something totally different from you. And that's okay. And that's what makes it such an individual question, that if you've never asked yourself, what would I have to do, to finish out 2024 in order to feel successful? Or what would 2025 have to look like in order for me to feel successful? Ponder that. That's a great question, I think, for some of you to ask yourself. And if you want, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram and let me know that you listen to this and what that looks like for you. If you're interested, you're watching here on YouTube, go ahead and give me a comment down below. I read every one of those comments, and I would love to see that. So as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking time to listen. I hope that for some of you, my podcast is like a, breath of fresh air that gives you some wind beneath your wings. Who sang that? Bette Midler. That was a Bette song. But I hope that it gives you sometimes the stirring that you need, the swift kick in the booty, if you will, in order to just keep pressing and to keep doing the things that are hard, big, and scary, while also feeling like you're getting a hug from your big sister or something. That's my hope for you. So, all right, my friends, bless you so much. Thank you for being here. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Easton. Do my eyes look like little bald baby chickens without my lashes? I think that they do.